Welcome to The Whole Pack, where we challenge black and white thinking and holistic pet care and dive into the controversial topics everyone's thinking about but nobody's saying out loud. I'm Sunny Gandera.
And I'm Melissa Sherman, and we are two holistic pet health practitioners here to prove that holistic care can include critical thinking, self care, and yes, even Western medicine when needed. This is a judgment free community we wish we'd had when we started our journey. Welcome back to The Whole Pack. This is episode 5.
Hey, Melissa, I wanted to start with something that happened to me last week. I had a new client consultation, and the woman mentioned that she talked to her vet about working with me, not the vet that I'm currently working with, someone else. And the vet apparently said, I don't know what a holistic pet health coach is, so I don't know what she can tell you that I can't, right? And the thing is, I've also been in the reverse situation. I've had clients tell me that their vet recommended blood work to investigate their dog's symptoms. And then they went into this holistic Facebook group and people told them, don't do the blood work. It's just a money grab. Just change their diet and use these herbs. Now, it might sound very like extreme, but actually this is stuff you can find, right? Like examples of, and I did with my clients. So the dog really happens to be stuck in the middle, right? And the owner is just confused, doesn't know what to trust. And honestly, I think this whole tribalism of sorts is one of the biggest problems we have in pet healthcare right now. Because I think it's not about the science or the philosophy. It becomes about ego. What do you think?
I totally agree. So social media, Facebook, especially Facebook groups, is every single person is an expert, and it gets really overwhelming. A lot of people will go there in a moment of crisis because maybe they can't call their veterinarian, or maybe they're waiting for an appointment, or maybe they're not sure if it's truly an emergency. Now they're getting a lot of advice from people they don't know, that don't know their animal, that you don't even know where they're basing their opinions from, and they're stating them as facts, right? Like that's the thing, is they're standing in their ego. What they're saying is a fact, and it's not always, right? And then that's dangerous, like you said. That cat or dog is stuck in the middle of that, and then that person that is just like, well, what do I do? Where do I go? And it's
And then you're not helping.
overwhelming. It's overwhelming, and
Yeah.
we have resources. We do know where to go, but still sometimes reading that you're like, what do we do?
Yeah. You're just adding more confusion. Like we've all been there, right? We're at the vet. We're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then we're going to be the ones to say, don't do this, don't do that. And then it's going to be even worse for the pet parent, right? So,
Right.
but you've been in this field a little bit longer than I've been. And so what do you think created this divide between the two camps, if you will?
I think it goes back. I think more recently it probably is some of, the social media. There's a lot of fanatical information. Some of it is based in some truth. Some of it is based in science. Some of it is just based in, I heard it on another Facebook group and I have a lot of followers and I'm just going to share it. And then that becomes dangerous because now you have somebody with a large platform sharing something with nothing really to back it up other than, maybe their heart's in a good place, but that's maybe not the best care for our animals, right? Like I think things get a little, we trust people online that we don't know, and maybe we need to do a little bit more of the legwork ourselves, but it becomes overwhelming, especially if you're stressed out, you have a stressful situation, maybe you're dealing with chronic diarrhea, you're not sleeping, this has been going on for years and years, and someone pops up and it sounds like the magic pill. We can be led to that. It's just that's kind of the society we live in, is we don't have all the medical support we need. We don't have not everybody has the financial resources they need to seek the medical care they need. So I think we get misled sometimes. And you see this a lot with products too, especially, right? Like there's something being sold that's going to stop whatever this issue that you've had with your dog for 10 years. Suddenly this one product is going to be the answer. I mean, I'm guilty of jumping on the supplement bandwagon myself, where I've bought things thinking, okay, this is going to fix everything, and it doesn't. And it's hard because you feel a relationship with some of these people online that maybe we need to dig a little deeper. But then that's where the veterinarians, I think, get a little skeptical of, where did you get this information? Because, right?
Yeah, of course.
How are
And
we
they're
different than
there's some
anyone else?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that I thought of a couple of different things, what causes the divide. And that is that, of course, veterinary education, I mean, whether we like it or not, it's heavily funded by pharmaceutical companies and pet food manufacturers. And, that's just documented, right? So vets learn a very specific approach and it's tied to those industries. Uh, but I also think we have to be honest on our side. Like holistic certifications vary wildly in quality, right? Like you can find one for $29.99 on the internet that takes you a weekend to do, right? So someone that takes a weekend course and calls himself a pet nutritionist, I mean, of course, we're going to be skeptical, right? And that undermines those of us who've done serious training, right? And not just the actual course that we've taken or certification, but we've actually studied for years on our own. And so, vets look at us and think, I spent 8 years in school and you did what? You got your certification in 12 weeks. So, I mean, it's understandable that we can be skeptical. And that, I think, is why we need education and we need to maybe come together and just be like put our guard down and like be, really genuinely curious about each other, asking questions like, how can we work together to how can we help veterinarians offload some of their work that they don't need to be doing? Obviously we can't do surgeries or any needlework or any of that stuff. I mean, that's their specialty, right? But we can do a lot of those chronic conditions, lifestyle diseases, right? So I don't particularly know where the breakdown of communication is, other than we've just been stuck in a system that this is the way it used to be and this is the way it's always going to be. But I just know personally that as you have certifications as certified holistic pet health coach, we are canine professional nutritionists. I've done extensive training in TCVM, herbalism, medicinal mushrooms. I mean, I study all day long. I mean, I eat, live, and breathe this stuff. But to a vet who doesn't know me, I could be anyone, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have gotten a weekend certification and not ever
Yeah.
talked to anybody, where you and I both have relationships with veterinarians in person, but we also have a community of holistic veterinarians that we work with, like including Dr. Ruth Roberts, right? I mean, that we can bounce things off of, that we can collaborate with if we get stuck on something. You and I are not just sitting there. If we don't know something, we're never guessing at that. We're going to someone else and saying, hey, have you seen a case like this? This is what the veterinarian's trying. This is what they've tried on their own and they're stuck. And I haven't seen this before. Like, what would you do? So we're using resources outside of what maybe your veterinarian might see, right? Like they might not know all of that about us, that we've been studying for years. And that is
Yeah.
not an exaggeration by any means. I still love taking courses. I know you love taking courses. So we're constantly learning about new things and we're doing
Absolutely.
continuing education on the certifications that we already have. But we also have a backup network of veterinarians that we can talk to bounce a case off of, to say, what would you do? I don't know. And you're a veterinarian. So please tell me. So we're working with people. We don't have that ego block that, oh, I have to know all the answers. No, we have resources within our network. If we don't know the answer, we can go to them. So I think that's the missing piece for me that I see with a lot of veterinarians, is they just think we're just some idiot that went and got a certification and now we're, some kind of hack selling something online.
Yeah.
That could happen, right? So that's
Yeah,
another episode, right? Where we're going to talk about how do you pick someone that you want to work with, something that's really intimate, whether it's energy healing, animal communication, nutrition, coaching. You want to fully vet the person that you're working with and not just take their word for it.
Back to what you were saying about social media. I just miss that we can just talk and be less defensive and just be open. That's what I really miss. And the thing is with social media, is that, you have these posts like your vet is poisoning your dog with kibble and it gets thousands of shares. And then a post that says maybe like your vet and your nutritionist should collaborate, it gets nothing, right? And then there's these practitioners who build their brands around being anti-vet or anti-holistic because I think that they are trying to raise their status, right? So when your income and your community identity are tied to that position, that collaboration may feel like betrayal, right? Like you're
Right.
selling out.
Right.
And so I just think that I do what I do for the animals, but there's this purity test on both sides, right? Like if you're not 100% in one camp, you're suspect. And that I just get, I know you are too, like tired of it,
Yeah.
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 So we
Across
get
the board, everything, all or nothing, like it doesn't work because you're just really, and this is kind of outside of what we do, but I heard a dog trainer talking about that, like where she started in one camp, and oh my gosh, if you ever get into like the dog trainer world and see it's volatile. I mean, there's a lot of disagreements. Um, but someone that started in one camp and then went to the other camp, but she still had those tools from the first one that she kind of evolved away from. And she was able to actually dig into that toolbox from the old way to actually help a dog that was not responding to the type of training that anybody was doing. So she was able to dig into something that maybe she didn't feel like she believed in anymore. That's what saved this dog's life. So when you do the all or nothing, you're cutting off something that might be necessary for that animal. And again, it's about that individual support, right? What they might need.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's so true, and that we can admit that we could use each other and have get help from each other. And so, for instance, you have a lot of practitioners on our side, like so you don't really need to go to the vet for anything, but you do need it for diagnostics. Like, right, I can't create an effective nutrition protocol without knowing what's happening inside their dog's body. Like, if I have to, I need to know kidney function. If I'm going to work with liver support, I need to see liver enzymes. Blood work, for instance, is really useful. That's something that vets do, obviously. And I've also had clients whose vets told them that nutrition doesn't matter. Just feed whatever and use this medication. So, I think that the bottom line of this conversation is that education is sorely needed, but that it has to be done in a way that is like lower your defenses again, like say it in a way that is open minded and friendly and can make people think, right? Rather than, go on the defense and criticize someone or put someone down, because you see that very often. And I always get very disappointed when I see other practitioners having to like criticize another practitioners to raise their own profile. That is always a red flag for me. I don't like that. Rather than just we have so much information to share on both sides. We can learn from veterinarians. They know a ton that we don't, right? And they can learn from us. But like we need to share what we know. So that is the most important thing, I think, rather than it's almost like politicians, right? They always rack down on their opponent. They never tell them talk about what they're going to do to make the society better. And so I don't want us to get into that because it doesn't serve anyone, right?
Right. And it's coming from a place of fear, maybe scarcity. I mean, there's things that it's not a good place to operate from. And you yourself have really built a bridge with Dr. Michelle, right? I mean, how did you do that? I mean, what was the type of conversation that you had to introduce who you are? Because I've seen other practitioners struggle with this, and it's almost like they're taken as a threat and they're shut down, and then they're discouraged right away that no veterinarian is going to accept me. However, I think you're kind of a success story in that. Like, how did you have that conversation to build that bridge between the two professions?
Yeah, so Dr. Michelle is my vet. In full disclosure, she's not with me, but my dogs, my dog's vet. And we connected because through conversation, she's also already a very open and friendly person. But we connected because she was already open to integrative approaches. She had actually told me that she was on a seminar with Standard Process, which is a supplement company we both use, I think, in our practice, and that are really great organic supplement company for humans and animals. And she was so inspired, and she, had seen cases where nutrition made a difference, and she believes in nutrition so much. But she's honest. She's like, I just don't have the time. She's one vet, and that's her private practice. It's a little practice, and she wanted to be able to offer that to her clients in house. So when she lost, when the second vet that she had on staff left, she was like, oh gosh, and then I was telling her about what I did as a holistic pet health coach. I was always like sharing things with her. And she's like, I thought of you immediately because but she's a super open person. It's been amazing, but it also required building trust, right? So I'm not a vet. I'm very clear about what's in my scope and what's not. As we know, we don't diagnose, we don't prescribe medication. I work with nutrition, food therapy, herbal support, and I always defer to Dr. Michelle on the medical side. And when I approached her, it was more about her. Like, how can I alleviate some of the work that you just don't have the time to do and that someone else can do? Because that's a question you have to ask yourself in your business too. I remember, because I used to be a business coach, and someone was always saying, like, ask yourself, can anyone else do this? And if the answer is yes, delegate. Because otherwise, like, we get so personal about our business. So the more we do everything ourselves, we burn ourselves out. And we're going to talk about burnout in the next episode, so stay tuned for that. But you just need to trust that someone else can do that too. And the trust didn't happen overnight. So don't approach a vet like, oh, here's all my certifications. Is this what I can do to help you? Like you're some sort of savior. That's not going to resonate with a veterinarian. They are already knee deep in cases. They're burned out themselves. They're like probably, euthanizing tons of animals. And they're just like, oh, I just need someone to, do the hand holding that I can't. So, Dr. Michelle and I work really tight. We talk regularly. If I'm working with one of her clients, I'll update on her on what I'm doing, what dietary changes we're making, what herbs I'm recommending, and she'll share the medical records with me, the blood work results, the imaging, and her clinical observations. We have a really good connection. So we're actually collaborating. See, it can be done. And it works. We just had a cat with a severe IBD where Dr. Michelle managed the medical monitoring and I handled the nutritional protocol, and she just couldn't figure it out. Like, I don't even know where to start. I don't have the time because this person was really, very, intense, if you will, with all the calls and things that they just don't have the time to answer 50 calls a day. Not that it was 50, but still. But we did home cooked foods, we did herbs to support his GI issues, and this cat's stable, and the owner feels like she's getting comprehensive care. So who wins? The animal and the pet parent. So I want to share more of those success stories because they can be done, and it can be done by you. Just put yourself, if I can just end with one, this was a very lengthy answer, but put yourself in the veterinarian's shoes versus thinking about how you can sound good, because they need help, but some of them are just too stubborn or too proud to admit that they do need help. And they're also probably skeptical of most of us because they don't know what qualifications we have to do what we do, right?
Right. And I mean, that's a good point about putting yourself in their shoes when you're talking to them. How can you help them? How can you make their lives easier? Because, what we're doing as coaches or nutritionists, it's very time consuming. And if you're working with someone that has gut issues and, they're sensitive to a lot of different foods, a veterinarian doesn't necessarily have the time to keep tweaking that, to go back in and do that. And that's what we do. It's a very time consuming process. We both love it, but that's the thing is, like, the veterinarians don't have time for that. They already have what they're doing, and it's very important what they're doing. So saying we can work on this together, and I can take, this part of it, and then when they come back to you, hopefully we'll see in the blood work that things are improving, right?
That's the proof's in the pudding, as they say, right? In the blood pudding. No, but it really, I mean, back to my earlier thing, what I was thinking about was like, if I come in acting like I know better than the vet, you've lost the relationship, right? But if I come in saying, here's what I'm seeing from the nutrition side, what are you seeing clinically? Now that opens the door because it's
Right.
like opening up, like I don't know the clinical side, but I would love to hear your point of view. And then, be professional, right? Like when you're working with a client who has a vet, you send the professional report to that vet outlining what you're doing, use proper terminology, don't make claims you can't back up, right? That's like the first
Right.
red flag. And then just showing that you're a credentialed colleague, not just some person on the internet who has an interest in pets, right?
Right.
And so not everyone is going to be open, and that's okay. But I would say don't give up. Keep looking for those who are. There are more integrative minded vets out there than you think. And they might just not be very loud about it.
And to extend that a little bit further, it doesn't have to stop with just the veterinarians either. I've collaborated with chiropractors and as an animal communicator and veterinarians. I have a veterinarian in Iowa that will call me every now and then and ask if she can refer somebody because they're having trouble diagnosing. Now, I don't diagnose, but what I can do with an intuitive scan is I can give symptoms that I'm feeling, where I'm feeling it, what areas of the body I'm drawn to. And then through that, the veterinarian can start looking at different diagnostics, start looking at something like, oh, you know what? I didn't know that was going on, so let's test this, right? So it it's not just about the coaching and the nutrition. You can collaborate as an energy healer. You can collaborate as an animal communicator because the same thing I with the chiropractor, she was skeptical, but open enough to let me sit with her an entire day in her office and work with her. And I would do a scan and say, what I felt here, 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 and here. And then she would go through as the chiropractor and be like, how did you do that? Like, how did you know those things were out of balance, out of alignment? She was not professionally trained in energy healing, but some of the language she was using, the things she's picking up on, they're very highly intuitive people too. They may just not be using the same language because she's like, oh,
Right.
and I'm feeling heat here. And, when I start to do this, sometimes heat is coming out of my hands. And I'm like, okay, that sounds a little bit like Reiki, but right? So
Yeah.
I mean, there's sometimes they're using clinical language and not thinking how intuitive they are as well. So it's about calling things like you see them because when I saw that with the chiropractor and I said that, she's like, I never really thought of myself as that. And it opened a different door for her. So you can collaborate in whatever you're doing as a practitioner and just be creative about it. How, at the end of the day, our goal is to help that animal. How can we help that animal we don't have to go and be salesy about ourselves? And like you said, the certifications don't always mean anything to anybody but us, right? Some
Right.
of them are
Yeah.
not even accredited. Some of them are just a certification, but you're learning knowledge. Um, so going in and just saying what you see, how you can help, how you can make their life easier, I think that can be the most helpful approach instead of we're not working together and you're the enemy because that doesn't serve anybody.
Right. Yeah. I think, like, for me, it's been really important to communicate how I can enhance their services versus trying to take away or compete. That's not what we're trying to fill a gap, right? So I do think that the vets who are seeing results from collaboration, like we're sending them, oh, look how much better they're getting, they are becoming more open. And I think I want to be positive. I think the tide is starting to shift toward integrative care. And you also see that on the pet parent side. They are starting to ask about holistic ways to heal. They're not to heal, but to like help and support their animals, right?
Right.
So I would say if you're listening and you're getting inspired by this, I would say reach out to someone on the other side. If you're a holistic practitioner, holistic pet health coach, find a local vet. They might be conventional, quote unquote, but they might be open minded and then introduce yourself, offer to be a resource, right? If you're a vet listening, find a credentialed holistic practitioner in your area and build a referral relationship, right? So maybe there's something that you just don't have time to do and that you think this person would be perfect for, and just start the conversation. The worst you can get is a no, right? I mean, it's
Right.
just that's what I say. And I've reached out a lot, even this week. So I'm thinking outside of the box, not to veterinarians, but to other institutions. I'm like, they're never going to go for this. But you know what? That was what I said when I approached Dr. Michelle. And hey, look where we are, right? So
Yeah. But that's a good point too, because you can collaborate with other practitioners too. I
Yeah.
have a dog trainer that I work with that when she has cases and she gets stuck, like, what's going on? This dog is afraid of men, but we don't know what's going on. That's, she has a package that includes an animal communication, and that's where I come in and help that. So again, working towards the same goal, we want to help this one dog, um, and bringing other people in, because I think that's another a thing. Sometimes we see each other as, and I'm not talking about us, but practitioners will see other practitioners as, a threat or
Yeah.
competition rather than an additional resource that you can bring in and really help enhance that dog or cat's care.
Absolutely. No, for sure. So hopefully, people who are listening, I hope there's people in both camps, whether they're vets or they're holistic pet health coaches or any holistic practitioners, that let's be positive. Let's present ourselves in a professional way. And I think we all need to remember why we got into this work. It wasn't to win arguments or protect our territory. It was because we care about animals, right? I mean, and every time we put ego above collaboration, we lose sight of that and the animals lose, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. So let's do better. We'd love to have, a conventional vet on this show who's willing to have this conversation openly. If you know someone, reach out to us. If that's you or you know someone, please let us know. And we want to hear from you, practitioners on both sides. Have you built successful collaborative relationships? It would be really inspiring for us to hear more of those stories. What's been working? What didn't work? Send us your stories. And next week, we're turning the mirrors on ourselves. We're going to be talking about the emotional toll of this work and how to keep your heart intact while you do it. And that, I think, is going to be an important one.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite topics.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Before we go, we want to remind you that the information shared on the whole pack is for educational purposes only and is not intended to replace veterinary medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your veterinarian before making any changes to your pet's diet, supplements, or healthcare routine. Every animal is unique, and what works for one may not be appropriate for another. We're here to empower you with knowledge, but your vet is your partner in your pet's individual care.